Geometry Dash is a game where you jump over spikes, jump over cubes, jump over basically anything, and fly between tight gaps. So how do we go from a game that looked like this into something like this, and this, and this, and this? Well, allow me to tell you. There's a little tiny facet of the game, nothing too important, called the Geometry Dash editor. An editor that allows us to build levels. Either you know how to use it, or you're Eric Van Wilderman.
I couldn't figure out how to cover up the hole because those objects,
I see.
they're not connected all the way through.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna fill that hole with something. That sounds really.
But don't worry, guys. I am your host, Souls, and I will show you a quick overview of the Geometry Dash editor. Now, why an overview and not an in-depth guide? That if I did an in-depth guide of the Geometry Dash editor, this video will be like 2 hours long. I ain't trying to do all that. Like, I got things to do. Either way, I hope this video helps. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Welcome to the Geometry Dash editor. I know. It's very, very intimidating when you first open this. So before we pick out any of the building and the editing and the deleting, we're gonna have to pick out a song because every good level starts off with a good song. So in order to choose a song, what you're first going to need to do is click on the cog gear at the top right of the screen. In doing so, that is going to lead you to the very start of your level. This is where you can pick up the starting colors of your background, your ground 2, your line, object color, your 3D line color, as well as all the starting colors of your level. This is also where you choose the starting speed, the starting game mode, and the starting background and ground. Now, as of 2.1, you can't change the background or ground. This possibly can change in 2.2. Now we can move on to the songs. You can either choose from one of the 21 songs that RobTop has provided with his main levels, or you can choose a custom song from Newgrounds. There are a couple of ways to acquire the song from Newgrounds. You can either choose from one of the approved artists that RobTop has built into the game. Right here, you can scroll down, pick an artist, or you can go into the feature tab and take one of their songs. They're not really gonna care, are they? In order to get the song imported from Newgrounds into Geometry Dash, what you are going to need is the song ID. So the first thing is to pick a song. In order to acquire the song ID, you're going to want to find the last numbers of the URL link, copy them using Control-C and Control-V them into the Geometry Dash search for song bar. If there's a certain section of the song that you want to use, you're going to click on the little gear icon and you can choose the starting position of the song, as well as fading it in and fading it out. If you want to pick a song that you have downloaded previously, what you would do is click on the save file icon and scroll through all the songs that you have downloaded previously. There's also the create lines tab, which I'm going to be completely 100 with you. I don't use it. Feel free to do it. It helps with sync by clicking to the beat and it makes BPM lines, but I honestly just don't use it at all. Now that you have set up your song, there is one last thing I wanted to mention. You can also pick out the font of your level that basically just manipulates any text that you put in the level, which I will be focusing on a little bit later. Now that we finally got all the pleasantries out of the way, let's finally start building, shall we? To begin, let's discuss the three main tabs: the Create tab, the Edit tab, and the Delete tab. What the Create tab is pretty self-explanatory. You put down blocks, and this is where most of your block placements and block items are going to be at. The Edit tab is what allows you to manipulate the object that you place down, whether you want to move them, whether you want to rotate them, etc. The Delete tab is used to delete objects from your level, whether you want to delete a certain block, certain details, or using the select filter to select different types of items, but that's a little bit more advanced. Now the Create tab has a lot of options. There are different types of blocks, different types of slopes, decoration, etc. There are a lot of things, so let's try to break it down for you. Let's go ahead and establish a couple of things. Generally, when you see a border or an outline around a block, it usually has a hitbox, which means that you can either slide into it, crash into it. The whole interactive thing you can do with that block. Crashing into it will obviously cause you to die, but going on top of it will allow you to slide on top of it completely unharmed. A tip that I like to give to newer creators is this: all the blocks that are near each other are from the same category. Generally, if you are able to see a pattern of blocks that look similar to each other, that means that they're in the same category. So if you're struggling to build any type of block design at all, simply just try putting blocks that do go together and see what type of shapes they make. Now, some blocks are a little bit more advanced than others to put together, so what I would practice is putting some of the blocks in the first tabs together before moving on to the more advanced blocks. Another tip that may help is playing some of the main levels that RobTop made. RobTop actually does a really good job putting blocks that are supposed to go together in a nice decisive level, and it just looks really basic, but it's a really good baseline for putting the blocks together. Now, of course, leaving the blocks in their most colorless state is not going to give you any creator points, so let's start coloring them. First, select the object that you want to color, then press the Edit Object tab. Now, of course, my color tab is going to look way different from yours, but the general rules are still going to apply. First, you're going to pick a color channel. This can be color 1, 2, or 100, 1000, whatever color channel of your choice. Once you choose that, go ahead and use the color wheel to establish what color you want to use. You can make your color blending, you can make it copy the color of the player colors 1 or 2, or make it any color that you want to. Now keep in mind that once you manipulate this color here and change it later on in the level, you are going to need a color trigger. And don't worry, the color trigger is going to have somewhat similar of a layout like this. It's just going to have a fade in time at the bottom of the screen. Now you may have noticed that some objects have a base color and a detail color, and at this point is where I kind of want you to experiment a little bit. In general, RobTop allows the white part of the object that you have selected as the base color and the blue part as the detail color. If they do have a base and a detail color, that means they can either be the same color or two different color channels at the same time. Now I briefly mentioned blending, and what blending does, it blends two objects together. I don't really have that much time to explain what additive blending means, so I'm just gonna put the definition of it right here. Alright, you done reading? Alright, let's move on. Another way of manipulating the color is by selecting the object that you want to change, and under the edit tab and pressing the three colored circles that are colored red, green, and blue. These sliders are what allow you to manipulate the hue, saturation, brightness, and the opacity of the object's color. Keep in mind that manipulating the initial object will change the initial color channel that it was under, and in order to not disrupt the beginning color of that object, you are going to need a color trigger. And at this point, you can do whatever the heck you want with the object. You can put it down, you can move it, you can rotate it, you can delete it, change the colors more, your choice. Keep in mind that solid objects, you know, the one with the white outlines, cannot be freely rotated. Those can only rotate by 90 degrees. However, any other object is fair game. You can rotate it however you please. And yes, these rules apply to every single tab in the creator tab. Whether it's slopes, decoration, saws, cubes, anything that you see in that create tab will follow all of these principles, except for triggers, because you know those are triggers. You don't actually see those in game. Now of course you can make a level with only blocks, but that would get pretty boring. So how about we talk about spikes and saws? There are a couple of ways you can die. You can either get crushed by blocks, swept by blocks, or running into spikes and saws. And of course, how could anyone forget the gameplay tab? Now, I would really recommend playing all the main levels and even some featured levels to establish what the game must do and how they interact with different objects around them. This tab contains the animated blocks, monsters that will kill you, and the modifier blocks that allow you to change the interaction of gameplay between the player and solid blocks. The D block allows the wave game mode to slide on blocks, which it's not able to do normally. The J blocks allows you to stop the player from holding into another jump. The S block stops the momentum of a dash orb, and the H block allows players to hit their heads on solid blocks. There's also the trigger orb that acts like a spawn trigger, but that'll be for another video. Now keep in mind, not every single saw and every single spike is going to kill you. Now there is one tab that I'm kind of veering away from, that being the triggers tab. I have an entire video explaining every single trigger in the game as of 2.1. Link will be in the description and this little bubble right here. But if you really want a quick little breakdown of some of the main ones I use, here they are. We have the color trigger, the move trigger, the alpha trigger, and the pulse trigger. Now let's keep it simple. The color trigger changes the color of a color ID. The move trigger moves blocks on the X and Y axis. The alpha trigger changes the opacity of any object. And the pulse trigger temporarily changes the color of a certain color ID or an object for a certain amount of time. Now you might have noticed that the tab at the end, I haven't really established that much. This is represented as the custom object tab. Basically, you can create your own objects and place them in your level. I personally don't use it that much simply because it's a little bit limiting. It only limits to 100 objects, so I really don't use it that often. There are ways to bypass this, but just know that this tab is used for custom objects that you make in your own level. To wrap up this video, let's go ahead and go over some of the main editor buttons that you will be using. These are optional, but they make the building process way smoother than you not using them. The copy button, well, copies the object, while pasting the object will place down the object. Copy pasting is Vibrant specialty and does both of those buttons at the same time. Edit special is used for a little bit more advanced things in the editor, but a simple use for them is manipulating the speed of rotations for saws. Edit group allows you to put objects into different groups, placing them in different editor layers as well as changing their Z layer of the object. I'll have a video linked below explaining Z layers in detail. Edit object allows you to edit the object that you have selected, whether it's an object or a trigger. Copy value copies the properties of the previous block that you have selected. Paste state pastes all the properties of the block that you just copied, such as the group ID, the Z layer, the editor layer, etc. Paste color, well, paste the color of the object that you just copied. The three circles give you the color changing sliders, such as the hue, saturation, brightness, and opacity. Go to layer allows you to go to different editor layers, and it really helps for organization. And the deselect button, well, it deselects for you. The magnifying glasses are what allow you to zoom in and zoom out of the editor. The two chains that you see at the bottom are mentioned as link controls, which I will discuss in a future video, but it basically links multiple objects together into a single object. There are also the play music and play test buttons. The play music button allows you to play the song of the level, and play test allows you to play your level within the editor. Swipe allows you to do a multitude of things, such as putting down multiple blocks while you're in the create tab, select multiple objects while you're in the edit tab, and drag to delete objects when you're in delete tab. Rotate allows you to freely rotate objects within this very inaccurate rotation circle, and solid objects are not included. Free move allows you to freely move objects in any direction within the editor, and snap allows you to drag blocks onto the grid and snap them into the grid place. The pause button menu also has another facet of games that helps aiding in building objects, putting things in multiple groups, or helping build the 2.1 rock blocks, which I will also have in the description. And there's a lot more. So to wrap up this video, there are a lot of things in the editor, so hopefully this video gives you a general idea of where everything is. I know I didn't discuss everything about the editor, but I really hope this video just gives you at least a decent start of where to go and how to go about doing things. I remember back in the 1.8/1.9 days, I was looking at the editor and I was like, wow, I really don't know what to do. And looking at the 2.1 editor, woo, this can be a nightmare for new creators. But hey, hopefully this video helps. And oh boy, 2.2 is only gonna bring more. Thank you all so much for watching the video all the way through. This took a lot longer than some of my other videos on the channel, so a like would always be appreciated. Alright everybody, this has been your boy Souls here, and I will see you guys next time. Later.